Nicole Lebrasseur, a dedicated legal researcher with over 15 years of experience, proudly serves as the founder and CEO of the Canadian People's Union NFP. Alongside her on the board of directors are Denis Lamothe, CFO, and Barb Garlow, a respected director and member of the Six Nations. Together, they stand united in their mission at the CPU, an organization unlike any other, representing informed Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples from coast to coast. The CPU's goal is simple yet profound: to challenge the status quo and advocate for our collective civil and political rights reclamation, a legacy eroded by political oversight and global pressures. Today, we at the CPU seek to ignite a spark of change, progress, and a reimagined democracy. Our mission is to illuminate the role of citizens within our political system, expose the international principles Canada has neglected, and introduce a viable solution for reform. The core of our critique lies in the partocracy system, a 19th century political framework where power resides with parties over citizens. This system has failed to evolve with societal needs, overshadowing citizens' voices with party interests. Additionally, despite the passage into the 21st century, Canada's status as an undecolonized constitutional monarchy starkly contrasts with the principles of a true democracy, where citizens should be collective sovereigns and actively participate in decision-making processes. We propose a transformative shift towards true democracy, prioritizing the collective voice and ensuring adherence to national and international human rights laws, a sector alarmingly ignored by our current leaders. Canada must fulfill its commitments to the conventions, treaties, statutes, and the International Bill of Rights, including the Syracuse and Johannesburg Principles. These frameworks, demanding that restrictions on freedoms be lawful, necessary, proportionate, and non-discriminatory, are foundational yet overlooked in our domestic policies, leading to confusion, unnecessary spending, and detrimental health outcomes, to name a few. The disparity between our international promises and domestic practices calls for immediate action. As Canadians, we must bridge this gap for legal compliance and to uphold democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. The CPU stands ready to lead this charge, advocating for Canada to become a global beacon of justice and human dignity. At this crossroads, we demand the opportunity to redefine governance to truly serve the people. The Powershift to Freedom project represents a crucial step towards embedding our collective rights firmly within our Constitution, shifting political power back to citizens and Indigenous peoples. This shift is not just a dream, it's a necessity, and we need your passion, voice, and commitment to democracy to make it happen. Your engagement is vital. Join us by endorsing the Convention of Consent, a living document that becomes legally binding with the support of 51% of citizens in 7 provinces. This convention is a step towards a brighter, more democratic future where past injustices are lessons learned, not repeated. Citizens 15 years old and over can sign at the cpu.ca. Together, we can usher in a new era of governance where corruption and unaccountability are relics of the past and our rights are protected and cherished. Let's make this vision a reality.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's Saturday, April 6th. I just got to make sure that I have the right date here. And so anyways, hello, Claudette, everybody, Maria, everyone. So welcome to another Saturday issue. Hang on here. I'm just not. Okay. My camera was a little bit off center there. So anyways, it's been another kind of interesting week. as we can see in politics and everywhere else, what people have been doing, the protests in regards to the carbon tax and everything else. It just amazes me that it wasn't put on the like tossed to the side for a bit to see exactly, what citizens really want. And more taxes is not what people normally want, because in hindsight, we're supposed to be richer and more powerful than we know. Most people don't have no clue. When I say this, we're richer and more powerful than we know, is because our actual rights were stolen by this government and by every other government since 1982, all the way down to 1966 and 1960. And the reason why I say 1966 and 1960 is because in 1960 we have the right to self-determine what kind of system we wanted, what kind of constitution we wanted, and to see where our country goes. And we were allowed to retake all of our natural resources, and there's nothing any company or country can do to alienate that. And this is what you're seeing now with the Palestine issue. So the Palestine issue is very close to what needs to be done in a country. But the problem here is that most people think, well, why are Canadians whining? But as long as we have Charles at the helm of our being the head of state, and the government, replacing that with the governor general and the executive government, then that hurts us, and that puts us under a dictatorship, and what they would call soft authoritarian regime. So it's kind of funny that they came out with this word regime back in the Harper days. Okay. And I had never heard the politicians refer to that, our governors, as a regime. So it's actually what it is. We're under a dictatorship, and dictatorships operate under military regimes and dictatorship laws. So, what kind of future do you want for you and your family and for this country? That's the bottom line. And I've been repeating this and repeating this and repeating this. And, um, it's just amazing to see that now people think that our government is going to come, a new government would come and save us. Well, that responsibility is ours. Okay. um if we want to be richer and more powerful than we are now, then we need to go after our rights that were stolen. And we can do that by signing the Citizens Convention of Consent, as you've heard in the previous video that was played before my coming on. So, and we need to get everybody across Canada as much as we can to sign this, as well as becoming members of the CPU. We are not a political party. I don't intend to become a political party because political parties is the root of our problem in a sense. So representative democracy only means that you give away your rights every 4 years to these politicians. And if you think Pierre Poilievre is going to come and save us, they're beautiful words, right? Everybody wants to hear, hey, Pierre's going to come and save us. The Conservatives are going to come in this time, even though they've screwed us over for over 40 years. It doesn't matter. Pierre's going to come in and save us. He's above all, he's different than everybody else. And so anyways, I'd like to show you a little something. And if Pierre Poilievre is going to, what was it, New Brunswick? I was just seeing here. I'm just going to look. Bathurst, New Brunswick. So thanks for that, Claudette. Not sure when that's going to happen, but the thing is, we it's not that all parliamentarians are corrupt. Some, would like to see changes, go in there to make changes, they're hopeful. But then they only find out in the end that they're not allowed to speak about certain things, and they can only push their party politics. So I want to, as much as Pierre is he's going to save us from the WEF. I've got a few things I'd like to show you, and I'm just going to go see here, share screen. Okay, add source, local video storage. Okay, local video. And these are things that I was looking at over the weekend. Okay, where is my file here? This PC, okay. Not that one. Home. Okay, videos. There we go. And I'm just going to go down the list here and see where I put that, because I know I saved it. And this was back in 2010. Not this one. Here we go. So this is about Pierre. It doesn't really say where he is here, but anyways, I'd like to show you this. Okay, and I'm wondering if you forgot all about this, so we're just going to.
Mr. Speaker, the World Economic Forum's 2009-2010 Global Competitiveness Report has again ranked Canada as having the world's soundest banking system. Canada's banks and other financial institutions are sound and well capitalized, and we're less highly leveraged than our international peers heading into this global financial crisis.
Okay, so that was that for that little video. But anyways, he's saying, how the WEF recognized Canada as banking system as being the best in the world, And so this was a time where actually, I'm just going to remove this here, where the whole top management of the Conservative Party actually went to Davos in 2010. So where's this other one with Davos, Harper? Here we go. I'm going to show you this other one. And Harper doesn't mention Pierre in that segment, but that segment was in relevance to that I just showed you, to the Davos and who was there. And he says there are other delegates. So he didn't name them all, but I would be shocked if Pierre hadn't been there. Okay, so hopefully the sound is going to be a little bit louder. So we're going to show you this here.
Welcome, Prime Minister, here in Davos. We are very much looking forward to your speech and your sharing your plans and your ideas with us. And there are three particular reasons to be particularly interested into your speech. So first, Prime Minister Stephen Harper, you come as the Prime Minister of a country which has relatively very well weathered the storms. According to my knowledge, you have best managed of all the G7, G8 countries the present economic crisis. Thank you for giving a good example, and I think the Forum is proud to have praised in its competitiveness report the resilience of your banks and the soundness of your banks as a good example for the world banking community. Second, we welcome you as the representative of a country which traditionally has shown great international engagement, which has taken very seriously its international responsibilities. I just want to mention your strong involvement in Afghanistan. The first foreign visit you made, Prime Minister, was to Afghanistan. I think you have been 3 times in the meantime. I should add and should commend you, particularly on your engagement also in Haiti. I think this engagement has also shown how much you personally are attached to those humanitarian tasks which we have to fulfill in the world. And last but not least, we welcome you, of course, as the chair of the G8, G20. And a very important summit will take place under your chairmanship, hosted by Canada, and we are now very much looking forward to what you have to tell us. Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor. Merci, mesdames et messieurs. It's great to be here in Davos and to have this opportunity to contribute to your discussions on some of the vital issues that are confronting the world today. Some of them are complex and they may at times seem abstract. But for ordinary men and women everywhere, the substance of what we talk about here translates into simple realities, like a home, food on the table, or a better life for their children. So it's an important debate, one that we're delighted to be part of. I should also like to welcome some other members of our government, my government, that are here today, my friends and colleagues. Finance Minister Jim Flaherty is here, Minister of International Trade Peter Van Loan, of course, Ambassador Santi, and also Governor of the Bank of Canada, Mark Carney. Welcome to all of you and to all the other Canadian delegates who are here today. I'd also like, Professor, to take a moment to offer my personal congratulations to you on this, the 40th annual gathering of your creation, the World Economic Forum. You chose as its motto, committed to improving the state of the world. I would observe that few who have set such a lofty goal have more reason to be pleased with their accomplishments. To have conceived of the need for such an institution as this required insight. To have established it took commitment, but to have then nurtured it as a podium from which business and political leaders could nudge public policy by addressing their peers from around the world, that is a formidable achievement, and Professor, this gathering salutes you.
Okay, where's my gag bucket? So anyways, I figured I'll cut it off there because it just goes on. And, you know, so what part did Pierre Poilievre have in there? Has he ever addressed that fact? I don't know. Do I really care? No, I don't. Why? Because it's time for Canadians to stand up and take our rights. When, you know, if you want your rights protected, you have a responsibility. You want rights, you have responsibility. You have children, you have responsibility. You have a home, you have responsibility. You live in a community, you have responsibility. And it all comes back to, what do you want? Are you ready to stand up for what you want? Because we're very much in the same time as pre-Germany, before the Holocaust, and all of these things. So it's important for people to say, you know, some people say, yes, yes, I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready. But the thing is will the politicians stand up and go against their party politics and finally do what the people who elected them in their communities stand up for their communities? Will they finally, and this is what we need to do right now, because the Conservatives are swearing up and down they're going to save us from the web. Well, if you're going to do something, Why wait till you're elected? And I've said this before. Why wait till you're elected? They have access to e-petitions. They can petition all of the people. Why did they not use an e-petition for the carbon tax? Why are they forcing people to go out and stand up and have to fight their way through all kinds of controversies in order to be able to protest properly and in a safe manner, when they've got bullies looking at them and egging them on called security, government security? So we need to look at the common sense of things. And, how safe are you? Well, signing your convention of consent, you do that from home. Okay. And the parliamentarians can use e-petitions. The ones who truly want to be there for the people need to put their money where their mouth is. Sign their convention of consent, stand up for the people, and finally be recognized as a country whose people rule it like we're supposed to, and not some shenanigan BS story that they gave us for King Charles. Hello, King Charles is in our way. The politicians are in our way. Not all of them, but we need to go and see which ones are willing to stand for the people and not their party politics, and not for the ones who furnish all the money to the politicians, because that's who makes the decisions in the end. Well, I'm not going to give you a dime if you don't vote the way that I want you to. But we have to look at what we do in this. Where did we go at fault here? The politicians will say, oh, Canadians are not ready to rule their country. So, and this is what they've used all along in regards to treating us like 5-year-olds. Have you noticed all of the videos that Parliament produces? Most of them are cartoons. Are you fed up of being treated like a 5-year-old, that you have no brains behind your thought process? That, Canadians don't care. Well, the price of bread you pay makes you want to care. The price of oil you pay should make you want to care. The education system and how it's gone to hell in a handbasket should be your first priority. What's going on in Ontario? 4 school boards are charging social media for not, making it hard for them to teach the kids, because the kids are obsessed with their cell phones. And I'm thinking, I've never agreed with Doug, most days I've never agreed with Doug Ford. But he thought that was ridiculous too. And it's like, what the hell? So when we're talking about how our provinces are being run and how our country as a whole is being run, and what the woke have done to this country, it's pre-Germany. The woke are used the same thing as pre-Germany. We have to look at our history. You have to understand history to see what's happening now. How intellectuals have been used to draft all kinds of reports and all kinds of things to sway people's minds. I mean, any survey can be tampered with. Same as elections. So we're at a point where we don't even know what's real and what's not real, even with videos that we see. The technology is so high now that anybody can imitate, say anything, and they'll take your photo, they'll put it online, and then you'd swear it was you that was saying these things, and when it's not. So can you really trust anything that you're seeing? I can't. So you have to go to the horse's mouth. We need to check facts. Yes, when we need to when we speak now, like even our language has changed, because we're talking more how can I say, a lot of things are being challenged, yet people are arguing the same points, but with different contexts, and this causes arguments, right? So now we have to go back and learn how to speak to our neighbors, to our family members, to everybody, because it's been so subverted, it's not even funny. And only by knowing what's been going on, and really looking at, the history of everything, will you be able to see it and recognize it for what it is. So when you're talking to somebody, ask, in which context are you talking about? Because a word can mean different things to different people. They're changing our vocabulary. They're changing the way we speak. They're trying to lump everybody in sort of a group. And I was watching a video in regards to Jordan Peterson, and he was having this debate with a group in the UK of woke people. Okay, and just astounding, because when you're listening to this, even like listening to Jordan Peterson is not an easy task. Okay. I mean, the words that this man uses is beyond comprehension for the most regular people, including myself. So I have to really listen and pick up on the words that he's using, so I don't assume a word means a certain thing. And I have to listen into the context of what he's talking about. Where's he getting at? But I'll tell you, once you figure all that out, then you say, oh my God, the man's a genius. But what does he stand for? Free speech. Everything that Jordan Peterson is doing is to protect freedom of speech. But that's not all we have to protect. We have to protect our rights, not just freedom of speech, not just the freedom to protest. We need to stop looking at little issues and say, okay, well, we need to fix a lot of little issues, but we can fix them in one swoop. And that's by signing your Citizens Convention of Consent and supporting the Powershift to Freedom, which is the cpu.ca. And even if you go to the powershift.ca, you'll all come back to the same thing. We didn't change anything there. We just changed to the cpu.ca to make it a lot simpler for everybody to recognize that, yes, we are a not-for-profit corporation that can go and fight against other corporations, which is our Canadian governance, and at other levels, so that we have the legal power to be able to do things. But right now, when you're looking at how things are and what has happened in the last 4 years in court and everywhere else, when we see that, oh my God, the corruption is so bad, and that you see justices being moved around like pawns so that the government could get the outcome it wants against the people, that's scary. Because they'll make sure that they have a judge that'll do their bidding. And this is a government that wants to keep the power over the people for their set agenda. Okay. And every political party that I've seen from since the 80s, okay, excuse me, really since the 80s, has been towing the line. They make you think that they're separate, but they're not. They're all in bed together. They're all, at the end of the day, they either they have a gun to their heads, or they're being blackmailed some way, somehow. We don't know. But we need to stop putting power into their hands and placing it back into our own hands. And we can do that legally. We don't need the government's permission. We just need 51% of the population to say yes. And then we're in the driver's seat. But do we need to overthrow our government? Hell no. The CPU is not about overthrowing anybody. And if you say that, you better make sure you know what you're talking about, and that you have the resources to relaunch a whole new governance system. Okay? and that you understand how governance works, because that is a very complicated machine. When you think that, almost half of the population of Canada works for the government at one level or another, whether it's federal, provincial, or municipal, are you sure you know exactly what you're saying when you say you want to overthrow this the government or the system? The system works. It's the few that are in there that are manipulating everything that need to be removed. That's it. Do the politicians that we elect truly run governance? Do you know that every other political party that's been in opposition has a seat on the Privy Council? Do you know what the Privy Council is? Do you know what it does? Do you know what the Heritage Committee does? Do you know, which are the lawyers that are passed on into committees? Which are the lawyers who sit in committees for justice and human rights? Do they even know about our human rights? And that's the question. Do you know your human rights? Now, if we know our human rights, and that, yes, international law actually is embedded in our charter, on top of our charter, and that those laws supersede charter rights. So, and this is what I was trying to explain last week and the week before. When you're looking at superior command, okay, they can find that, yes, documents they've signed since 1945 are automatically embedded into our Constitution. But nobody wants to challenge that. And in order to challenge that, you have to have smart judges that know the truth, but judges that are not afraid of standing up against our governments. So right now, the only ones that could help make this happen are the citizens. So we need to be able to clean things up the proper way before it's too late. And it is almost, too late. So right now, when we're looking at the laws, yeah, they need to be cleaned up because they have terminology in there that they never even should have. They're not supposed to be just, they have to be very specific, and they're not. So what are the lawyers doing? Varani should not be in the position he's in, because if the laws he's trying to come out with, Bill C-63 or 637, and then Bill, we have C-16 and C-11 and all of these things, and the senators would know, or the politicians or parliamentarians, those laws would never make it to the table. So, Linda, somebody's saying here we need to bring back the people's grand jury. Well, it's not even that. If we were in power by signing the Convention of Consent, once we take our rights as we legally should, and what we're trying to do, and the people finally take responsibility for their own actions and this country and its natural resources and protecting it for the future of all our children, and that the Indigenous nations also stand up, because they need to stand up, and they need to stand up now. They have the right to a partnership in Canada. Where are they? Everybody's focused on their little areas. The Indigenous nations are North American, together, not separate. It's not a different nation. It's not like they're all different races and different nations. Their rights go throughout North America. They need to stand up as one. And they're allowed a partnership, in an economic partnership in Canada, as well as what happens with our natural resources, the protection of those resources to make sure that they don't die off. So right now we've got Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples who are scattered and don't realize how wealthy and powerful they are, because everybody's in a panic and looking at politicians to, well, you need to help us, you need to do this, you need to do that. Yeah, we need to go after our politicians and make them accountable for their actions, but only we the people united can do that. And the Convention of Consent unites us that way because it's a living document. So we've given you all of the information possible. Jen and Richard have done a great job putting everything together, and Liz and everybody, all of the information, the little team that we've had, Pierrette, everyone that's involved, everybody is behind the scenes answering emails or getting emails together to send to everybody. Everybody who's involved here is a Canadian citizen wanting to protect this country. And whoever isn't involved is doing something else that will not give us our entire rights, which is, no offense, a waste of energy. So we need to look at the root cause. The root cause is that the Canadian citizens and the Indigenous peoples are not in power, therefore have no voice other than to elect a new dictatorship. Is that what you want? It's a vicious cycle. It just turns and turns, and it doesn't stop. Who is going to throw that wrench in that wheel of corruption and control and authoritarianism that makes absolute no sense, allows groups like the woke to bring us into a war-like civil war against even our neighbors? We've got people fighting everywhere across this country. We've got cops who don't even know their jobs. It's like we've got groups who say, I've never heard anything as stupid as defund the police. Well, who's going to stop all of the drive-by shooters and all of the thefts and the rapes and the people being stabbed on the buses and the subways? And Toronto has gone to hell in a handbasket since migration came in. Because why? Why? So all of it is useless. Is it really the migrants or the immigrants or the Canadian citizens finally losing it? Why blame everybody here when the problem belongs to our governments, to our city halls, to our provincial government, who is responsible for these cities? So, and then in the long run, then you have us that's to blame for not doing anything and for hoping somebody else is going to come and save the day. People tell me, oh yeah, but I'm tired of paying through the nose. When is somebody going to stop this? Well, what are you doing to stop it? You think just passing stuff online and everywhere else is going to, the only thing that does is make everybody else who is aware more aware. That's just another thing to put in the bank, in the memory bank. But we need action. And action is what we need. And we need the people to rise for good reason, not just for farming, not just against carbon tax, not just against this or that. You need to stand up to place the Canadian citizens and the Indigenous nations as equal partners in this country the way it should be, so that everybody can prosper equally, and that we have control over how all of these natural resources are spread out, how they can help everybody. We have to reinstate a decent healthcare system. But that's not going to happen by trying to fix the whole system. The system works if it's managed properly. If politicians can't manage it properly, we need to step it up, but we need to have the right to do these things. Right now, those rights only belong, our rights are there. We need to take them. We need to exercise those rights. And we need to make our politicians understand that we know our rights, that yes, we have all of these rights, and whether there's an emergency or not, those rights they cannot derogate, even in times of war or any kind of pandemic or anything like that. And the lawyers and the judges are supposed to uphold those rights. That's their job. They're supposed to uphold the rule of law. They're supposed to look at laws and make sure that they're streamlined the right way and not use other words that can bring in corruption. So, why don't you have a people's referendum? Our convention of consent is a referendum. And who's going to pay for that to begin with? It has to be the people. You can't just say, I'm going to run a referendum. Well, where's the money going to come from to go from city to city, place to place, house to house? Advertising. Have you tried advertising in the media right now? Good luck with that one. Our hands are tied everywhere except for right here. When you guys are listening to us, that's the only time our hands are not tied by something, the law that the Canadian government has come out with, that can have us, even in jail for thinking. And this is where we're at. And this is where Hitler was at. Okay? So if we just keep bitching and ignoring and hoping somebody's going to save the day, oh, well, Pierre is going to come and save us in 2025. Well, bullshit. Excuse my language. Every politician right now has access to e-petitions. They can use that for the people and spread it all across Canada. Would you believe that only 771, somebody in BC, okay, and this is how they manipulate politicians, okay? We're going to get somebody, one of the politicians, to file an e-petition and then say, who would like to, now that the Queen is dead, should we remove Charles from the head of state? And who should we choose? Well, to me, if 38 million people had a brain and knew where to go and find this information to begin with, not because they don't have a brain, but because they don't tell you, oh, please go online, sign this e-petition and say no and remove Charles from the head of state and place the people as a whole there. No, what they want you to do is choose another idiot to replace Charles, become a republic, choose a president that will do the same crap that we're seeing now. So whether a constitutional monarchy or whether republic, they're both traps under representative democracy or proportional representation. It doesn't matter. The kind of system we have, let's call it a pluralist governance. Pluralist governance, if you want to call it that way. So, okay, we have the rights to referendums. The UK has more referendums than we have. Why? Because Canadians are sleeping at the wheel, not forcing referendums to happen. For the first time the other day, Pierrette sent me a video about these gentlemen, these from Quebec, who went to Parliament and did this, they tried to have a a press conference from CPAC. I don't know how many people watched that, but in the end, they tried to really do a good job and say, hey, why don't we have a referendum for carbon tax? Well, isn't that the job of your provincial politicians? Not to just talk, but really by rights, because of the dictatorship we're in, the premiers could have said no. 7 of them, poof. Or they could have invoked the notwithstanding clause that really isn't legal to begin with in our charter. So if they want to keep the BS going, they could have just used a notwithstanding clause. So any premier that is still using, that is going to charge you carbon tax, okay, is BSing you. Oh, we have no choice. You've got the notwithstanding clause that you can use for 5 years, which is if contested in court anyway, against us. Okay, maybe against the government, but against us. Because the notwithstanding clause only serves to remove our rights, not the government's rights. And that's the fallacy that they give us. So if we'd have to clean up the BS, and but that's only by understanding our rights and you understanding your rights. Okay. So Patrick, you say, okay, get all people together to overthrow the government. No, you know, that is the most ridiculous thing anybody can say, because you can be charged with treason and be thrown in jail for saying that. Do not post that in our chat so that the government can say, hey, the CPU wants to overthrow the government. No, it's not. It's not about, if you don't know what we're about, please, I suggest that you go and read our website at thecpu.ca, read the information, let it sink in, understand it, and then you might get a clue. We can't overthrow the government. Okay? Nobody can overthrow the government. Not right now. Unless you have your own military. Do you have billions of dollars in your pockets? Millions of people to support you? That the answer to that would be no. So how people need to watch what comes out of their mouths. To say things like that can have you in jail tomorrow or by the end of the day. And our system, when you really look at our system, it's supposed to work. And it does work. It has worked when it's been managed by people who cannot be intimidated and do the right thing. Okay? So anybody who repeats things like we need to overthrow government have not a clue of their rights and everybody else's rights. Our rights could be used legally to change governance, to make sure that governance listens to us. That's why it's so important to go and sign your Citizens Convention of Consent. The Citizens Convention of Consent is a right that we have as a collective to self-determine and to be in charge. We are the ones who have the political power. We have that political power, plus. And we need to use it properly. The politicians owe it to every single Canadian citizen and Indigenous person in this country to do right by them, not their party politics. Not to follow the BS that they're trying to spew. It's up to every politician to understand all of our rights and all of the rights that they have within those politics. You know? So really, when you look at the whole scheme of things, we have a good governing system. It just needs to be applied or respected. It needs to be respected. The rule of law is not respected. Even though they say that, no, we are being ruled by law right now, but they use the double speak and to confuse everybody. So after watching a bunch of lawyers in a committee meeting on justice and human rights in regards to a bill, I had to question how these lawyers, what do they really think? Are they just towing the line? Most of them just toe the line because, oh, well, it's what's done. Oh, it's habit. No, habit happens when everything is followed to a T. There's rules for a reason. so that chaos isn't ensued, so that things can be done properly. And that is the job of Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples that really want their rights recognized, to finally implement. And there's only one way of doing it. Other than the politicians could change things overnight, but they're too afraid. But they don't even have the population standing behind them, because some of them still think, that BS pandemic, was real. Yeah. So is the common cold and, influenza and all of these things. But what was more dangerous out of that? Did the did the injections actually outweigh the risk? Help? Was it better than people dying from not being vaccinated and all of these things? What was more risky? Who's to blame? Who's to blame? Do we really need to blame somebody right now? Maybe, yeah. But first, we need to make people realize that, hey, we've got the power. We've got the laws, international laws, that override our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, because these are laws that all of the nations have agreed to, that are automatically in our Constitution. And any lawyer that wants to argue that, I invite them to come and see me. Because reality is reality. Facts are facts. Okay? And that's why we need to keep the discussions with facts, with truth, and with proof. So you can't say something unless you have the proof to stand behind you. So, people are talking out of their hats. So when I hear people saying, and I started talking about this a few minutes ago, defund the police. That is the ridiculous, all of these things. People want to chant just like everybody else without even knowing what the hell they're saying. Oh, it sounds cool. So, hey, let's, walk around with signs, defund the police. Well, who the hell's going to take care of all the crap that's happening in the meantime? Why are you going to go and monitor your neighborhoods? You're going to send your kids out to monitor the neighborhoods and maybe have them killed in the process? If you're going to say something, you better be willing to be the first one to take that action. Okay? It's like depopulation. When my son was 17 years old and came back, because the professors at his college said, oh, there's too many people on the planet. We need to have some people depopulated. I asked him, I said, who the hell told you that? He says, well, that's what we were discussing in class today, our professor. I said, well, okay, so if you tell me that you agree with depopulation, then you need to get in line. You need to be the first one. Are you going to commit suicide right now? Or shall I do it for you? He was in such a shock, okay? Because I said, anybody who thinks that they are better than the next person, who are you going to depopulate? Who are you thinking needs to be depopulated here? Everybody has the right to life. Everybody has rights, including trans people, including handicapped people, especially children. So who are you going to depopulate? There's no comeback, right? So when you say defund the police, no, be smart about this. Educate the police. Educate the police before you start saying defund the police. Let's make sure they have the right education. Let's make sure the lawyers have the right education. Let's make sure the judges have the right education. Let's make sure that our politicians have the right education. Let's make sure we have the right education. to begin with, because you can't teach anybody anything unless you know it yourself. And you need to understand why. So before I would defund the police, I would try to re-educate them. Sorry, that's what they tried to do to Jordan Peterson. Re-education to the medical doctors who were at least smart enough to stand up. Oh, we're going to send them to re-educate. Okay, so these are traitors to Canada, to all Canadians, who put them in jeopardy first, who want to re-educate Jordan Peterson and the all of the doctors that have a brain. Like, it's so twisted, so turned around, that only we the people can stand together and stand up for the rights of these people. Stand up for the rights of the police who are being forced into doing atrocities they really don't want to do. But, oh my God, they've got a gun to their head and they're afraid to speak like everybody else is afraid to speak. When is somebody, when are they going to get balls to do the right thing? You just need love in your heart for this country, the people. And it doesn't matter about the migrants coming in. They're looking for a place to have peace, to be able to prosper. Our government is the second highest paid in the world for what? Under 40 million people? Give your head a shake. 40, not even 40 million people, and our government is the highest paid, second highest paid in the world. United States have almost 400 million people. Other countries have much more than that. I saw this joke, okay, and it's cute. Somebody sent me this joke, and it's cute. And it says, the one guy goes to his employer and says, "Hey, I need a raise because I've got 3 companies who are after me." So the employer figured, okay, well, I guess that's competition, right? So 3 companies want to come after my employee, so I better give him a raise. And so the employee said, well, electricity, water, and gas. 3 bills: our water bills, our gas bills, and our electrical bills. Okay, so that's a little joke for today. Anyways, hopefully you got it. But when you say something, you better have made sure that you thought about it, that you understand what you're saying, and who makes you better than anybody else. Everybody has rights, including the ones you don't like. And why do you not like them? Because maybe somebody said something, or you saw in the news that wasn't quite right, because you didn't research it yourself. So if you want to know something, you need to research it yourself. You need to make up your own mind. And then you need to get to work to change things, to make things better, so that you can have a decent life, so that your children can live without fear. I remember a time where we never used to lock our doors here in Canada. Nobody's going to come and steal. Nobody had that thought in their heads until life became hard and our governments put the people, poor people, even poorer, and put them into situations, or even the wealthy didn't have enough. So spoiled kids would go and steal. So there's all kinds of reasons for people to do things, what they do. But you can't just put everybody in the lump sum. They'll come from, it's not just a certain type of people or a certain thing or whatever. And, even though Jordan Peterson is really hard to understand at times, and you got to wonder where the hell he's coming from, what's he trying to protect here? You really need to dig deep. And he's right. If we do not stand up to this government right now and removing our speech, we are inches away of reinstilling, okay, Hitler. Okay. So, and it's Hitler in every single Canadian, because if we do nothing, we're guilty. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with that. It's 11. Now I'm going to go and do my French. I'm going to go and do the French segment in about 10 minutes. I'm going to take about 10 minutes. But I want everybody to realize this, that we have what it takes. We have the document that liberates us. We need Canadians to sign it. We need every Canadian to take part, not just to sign the convention and walk away. We need people to join the Canadian Citizens Union, Canadian People's Union, okay? And be a power shifter. And I've even seen that the government started using another organization that, power shifting to hell. As far as I'm concerned, they're not really power shifting. They're trying to power shift dictatorship. So, so now we need to power shift to freedom. And that should be the priority of every single Canadian citizen and Indigenous person who has the right to an equal partnership, economic partnership in Canada, to sign their Convention of Consent. So, when we're trying to, somebody's saying I'm suspicious of Peterson. Sometimes I get that too, and I say, well, okay, what the hell is he talking about? But I can't just leave it at one talk. I have to go and listen to many. But, just because a person, it's like agreeing with the devil. Just because the devil says something good doesn't mean that you should support it. Okay. And Jordan Peterson, the mind that he has will be misunderstood by most people. Okay. And I can see this. And before people attack him, they need to know what he stands for. What makes this man tick? And then you understand a little bit better. And he's fighting tooth and nail right now for our individual rights, not to allow a government to dictate to us what we might be thinking and locking us up for it. This is there was another woman, I'm just going to say this real quick. I saw a woman who goes back in history and identifies, and she says, at every time, at the end of the downfall of a civilization, the more, how can I say, she uses the trans thing. She says, you could, before you could see, the statues being muscular, and this is what they were portraying in cities. And then towards the end of that civilization, then you see the statues become more feminine like. The men would take on a more feminine shape, meaning that, okay, well, they don't no longer care about saving their countries, and no longer, they just want to, so they kind of, they're drained of their masculinity. And we're seeing this today. So, in different contexts. So before we accuse people, we need to look at the context in what they're speaking of. And yes, everybody has rights. Everybody has rights. But you can't impose your rights onto somebody else and then sue them for it. Okay? Everything has to be fair. And the thing is right now, what we're seeing is minorities imposing themselves on the mass population, and then it creates hate for a good reason, because of stupidity, mismanagement. So we're seeing that our government using scholars to write ridiculous things and creating this woke community that is sending us into total chaos, because these people can't think for themselves, because, you need to have compassion. You need to be a good person. You need, those poor people. At some point, it has to even out. Yeah, have compassion. but they also need to not impose their things onto somebody else, especially the mass. And that's what we're seeing today. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to take 10 minutes and get to the French video live stream and get back into this conversation in French. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Please go to the Canadian People's Union. Join the CPU. It's important for people to join, because then you'll get the education that you need. Because even if you think that you're going to go and get an education somewhere in Canada on your human rights, good luck with that. Okay? Because our rights are more than that. Okay? So unless they know that, so now our job is to try and teach everybody as much as we can so that they can go out and teach others. And we need to get our politicians to recognize and understand our rights included into our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and those that surpass our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Okay, they belong to everybody. So have a great weekend, everybody. The sunshine is finally out in Southern Ontario, and we'll have more discussions like this. And you know, when you join the CPU, then we have our meetings every 2 weeks. And, you know, we can do those meetings more often if we could get more people involved, you know, and making all kinds of workshops. But that's up to you. If you really, really want to save this country and you're serious about it, then come to the cpu.ca. Thank you. And we'd like to thank everybody before we leave that has been participating, that has been trying to get the word out. And please don't give up. Eventually, people will get it. Unfortunately, it might happen only when they've suffered too much. And we're trying to avoid that at all costs. Okay? So please be quick. Let's get this done. Let's get our country back on track. The Indigenous people have to rise right now or lose everything in the end. Okay, so have a great weekend, and we'll see you again. I'm just going to leave you with this, just in case you just arrived and you haven't heard our latest things. So there we go. And okay, where is it? There we go. Enjoy your weekend.
Dive into 2024 with the CPU's dynamic campaign, set to energize Quebec and Ontario by reaching 75,000 homes with our empowering message. Every contribution you make is pivotal, driving this ambitious initiative forward and ensuring our information lands directly in communities via Canada Post. We extend special thanks to our dedicated CPU members, whose grassroots efforts amplify our reach. This campaign is your gateway to being part of a significant movement for change. Whether you choose to donate or volunteer, your participation is key to our success. Join us in making 2024 a victorious year for collective freedom and community action with the CPU.